the 8 screen machine. The advantage is you can print in one station, it can go under a flash, and you can have somebody else printing opposite you.
Yeah, all heads down.
So all heads down kind of. So it's all
cool.
it's like it's heading towards an auto.
Welcome to the latest season of the Aussie Screen Printing Club, the podcast that's all about the commercial end of screen printing.
I'm Nick from Artsu in North Narrabeen in Sydney. We're predominantly screen printers and decorators, as well as we have a design. We do design as well. Basically a smaller hand printing company on the northern beaches in Narrabeen in Sydney.
Nice. And you run your own brand as well. Is that what
we do. We run our own brand as well, which is up and down. It's kind of something that we've just kind of steered away a little bit more from in the last couple of years. But yeah, we've got that as on the side as well. Which on the side, well, it's kind of a bit of what we do, but a lot of what we do is printing for brands and bands and everybody else who walks in the door and needs something done, basically.
Yeah, right. And so did you start out with a brand? What got you going?
Yeah, so I started out as a printer in would have been in the late 90s. I started working for a company in Brookvale, where we were predominantly printing a lot of Taronga Zoo's shirts, which were mainly panel done. So a lot of panel T-shirts, we'd do these great big snakes that would kind of come around the shoulders. So we'd cut the panels as one piece, so there'd be no seams on the shoulders, and we'd print them all as one piece, and then they'd be sewn afterwards. So the print as panels, but things like snakes that would come around the shoulders, and tigers that would go up around, tiger paws that would go up over to the back, and those kinds of things. And this was all on hand machines, on an 8-color hand machine. And the prints were all kind of at least A2 kind of size, as big as the boards basically that we could fit on the screen. So that's kind of where I'd started. And I was working for that company for, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years before, and that company ended up moving over to Petersham. And once that moved to Petersham, I worked for them for another year or two, and then took another job in Brookvale as a pad printer, which was interesting, but at the same time, it was fairly mind-numbing, to be honest. It was kind of, we're printing, it wasn't, I wouldn't say mind-numbing, but it just didn't challenge me at all. We were printing a lot of golf balls and sitting there kind of putting a golf ball in, putting your foot on a switch for 8 hours a day just really didn't fill me with much. So yeah, so then I guess from learning from being a screen printer, that next kind of step was then to start my own label slowly, because I had the skills to do it and also had the knowledge, because I've been doing the work with Taronga Zoo and the garments that we'd make for them, which were, while they were T-shirts, they were kind of, you got to learn about the patterns and the making and the manufacturing of the shirts. So it kind of led me into getting interested in the manufacturing of clothes as well. So led me down the path of doing pattern making and learning how to cut and do grading. As well. So, but so I started the Artsu label in would have been about 2005. And then while I'd started that, I was still working in Brookvale for the pad printers. And after I think it was about 8 or 9 months, I just went, I can't do this anymore, and went out and went full-time on the Artsu label. And and bought a bunch of equipment. I think I was started on a 4-color 1-board carousel. So 1 pallet, 4-color 1-pallet carousel and a little dryer that I'd bought, which was you kind of had to put the shirts through 3 times to get them to cure. But so I run to the back quickly, put it through again while it's still hot. But yeah, so that, and then went into the fashion side of it as well. So I was kind of selling to around 20 or 30 stores throughout Australia and a bit in New Zealand. And,
you were actually making the clothes as well.
Yeah, so a lot of them we'd make. I'd have a lot of them made. Like I'd make a lot of the samples, and then we'd send. Once we had the samples and the patterns and all the grading done, I'd send them to makers in Sydney to get the production done. Yeah, and it was great to kind of. It was a lot of fun, and it was great to learn that side of it. But it quickly became evident that it wasn't. It was really hard financially, because a lot of the stores that you're selling to, the smaller boutiques, and they want to be on 30 days, and 30-day stretches to 60 days, whereas you've got to pay your makers up front. So there's kind of unless you've got a lot of backing there, I think you kind of see quite a lot of fashion labels go under for those reasons. But we still kept the t-shirts of it going. But then I started taking on design work and going into printing for other people after a couple of years, and it's kind of a different game, because you can set your own rules as far as you can set your own terms and how you want to run it and how you want to get paid. I guess it's kind of.
And presumably, you didn't manufacture the garments for that market. You purchased from other people.
So that became more of a purchase. There was some stuff that I'd be still making for people, specialized stuff. I remember doing a running suit. Things that, like, I get promotional companies coming to me and doing things. That we did a running suit for Matt Shervington which was built on which was designed on the Kathy Freeman running suit that she wore in the 2000 Olympics. I think he was doing a race when he was working for Nova. So jobs like that had come to me because we had the ability to make the running suit and print it, and just they'd give me a sketch and we just kind of do the whole thing. So, but not a lot. I don't know. I've kind of steered away from a lot of that kind of stuff. Well, it's fun. It's time consuming, but now I kind of juggle my time more with other things and printing. So it's kind of, yeah.
And just to go back to the clothing brand for a second, what was the idea behind the brand in terms of, because the designs are pretty wild. I really like them. They're very earthy. What was the kind of idea behind them?
I think it was like, I started it initially because I didn't see anything that I wanted to wear in shops. So it was kind of like, they're all kind of ideas that come to me, and whether or not they're interpretations from other artwork. Like, I think I'm trying to remember what we've got online at the moment, but yeah, there's sketch t-shirts that we've got on there. There's a bit of a take on the Dark Side of the Moon t-shirt from Pink Floyd. I've always been a big music fan and been into bands, so music's kind of played a big part of where the influence for the labels have always come from. But I like to kind of I used to like to follow a bit of a story when I put collections together. And these are back in the days where, I mean, fashion, that side of the rag trades, like, it's changed so much now with fast fashion and the way things can be produced so quickly. And they're basically sold as soon as it goes online. It's for sale. Whereas back in those, this is almost pre-internet. So we'd go and I'd make a collection of samples. There might be 30 pieces in a collection. I'd go and show it to shops. We'd do showings all around Australia, and then they put orders in and expect the delivery of everything 6 months ahead, or so 6 months down the track. So we'd take orders in March for September deliveries, but now and even clients that I've got who are running labels as well, they're taking orders on the first of the month, and their retail customers are expecting delivery 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
finished, with the finished order. So I think the turnaround time now has just increased so much. I mean, I guess it's had to. It's different because a lot of the labels that we work with now, we're using ready-made garments. So we can order them and they'll be here within a couple of days. So the difference with the Artsu label is still the garments that we make now, everything's made in Australia, and I don't hold a lot of stock. So it's all manufactured here in Sydney, and then garment dyed and printed and hand printed here. So it's kind of the turnaround time to get 100 t-shirts made in Marrickville for a run. You're looking at two or 3 weeks. Then to get it in the line to actually find a dye house now, it's hard work. But there's still a couple left. But to get that in the line for that, there's another week in that. So you can turn it around quickly, but it's where we used to be. We gather as many orders. We go out and sell for all of March and April, and you get as many orders in it as you can, and then you'd make it one big production. Now it seems to be more turn it around quickly, just keep it kind of coming. So
where would you buy most of your garments now? What wholesaler would you go to?
I'd say probably 90% of what we resell through Artsu is from AS Colour, basically. Yeah. There's a few customers who'll want something maybe from Stella Stanley or trying to think who else, from Continental. So OCC, we get a little bit of stuff through them, but predominantly AS Colour, basically. Yeah, and we kind of and I tend to steer our customers to AS Colour as well, just because the products are reliable, the cotton's good, they're ethically made as ethically made t-shirts can be. Yeah, and they seem to last. They don't shrink. Yeah, and a lot of the cottons seem to work with the discharge. Some of them obviously won't, and they seem to work with most of the inks. We've only had a couple of problems here and there with reds and greens, occasionally where inks just doesn't take to the t-shirt, basically.
Are you doing quite a bit of discharge and water base? Is that what you predominantly print?
Yeah, I went through a stage where I was doing quite a bit of discharge and water base. At the moment, we're using more plastisols, and if somebody asks for discharge, then we'll definitely do it. Anything pretty much that we print with of the Artsu, of the label stuff, is all discharged, unless it's on like the acid wash t-shirts, because you can't discharge an acid wash. Basically, it's a different dye process, so it's not a reactive dye. But yeah, so we do use a bit of discharge, but I've had issues with a few of the different discharges that we use of washing out, whether or not they're not penetrating the fabric enough, and they're sitting on top where they'll go white, and maybe the ink's gone off and it'll set off white, but then after a wash, it'll wash out and you're just left with the shadow. So it's a little bit of trial and error when it comes to discharge, especially with the different brands.
What brands of ink do you use across, plastisol and water based?
We've got, because we're in Narromade, we've got Permaset is in Brookvale, so that just makes it really easy to be able to go down and get whatever we need. So all the water based stuff is Permaset that we use.
Yep.
And then predominantly the plastisol is Rutland, because we're buying through Leapfrog.
Yep.
Who were in Brookvale, so that was quite convenient as well. Because if I needed something, I just duck down the road and get it. And
that's super handy. Yeah, they've moved a bit. So it's Shane at Leapfrog.
Yeah, Shane's. Yeah. So Shane always looks after us too. I've known him for years. So yeah, they're in Marrickville. But once again, if I order something in the morning, it's here by the afternoon with the courier. It'll come the same day. So
nice.
It's they seem to work well. We use a little bit of Ceracol ink, which comes through Fujifilm. But I don't know how much they sell of it, but because every time I kind of send them an email to order some ink, it's like they get very excited, like somebody's ordered the ink. It's kind of like someone's buying those buckets because they do a really nice white, which is the FE and the FE white, which they had two different whites, one which was really nice to print with, but we had issues with it. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was a 2.5, but we had issues with it washing out of the shirts because it was so easy to print with. And what I kind of worked out is there's so much pigment in the ink. It's almost like there's too much pigment in the ink. So the only way to get it down in the shirt was after you cured it was to heat press it at like 170 degrees, give it a heat press for 10 seconds, and then that'll cure it properly. Otherwise, it's kind of just washed out. But the other one that they do is the FE ink, which has got, I think it's got a bit of stretch in it. I think it's like it's got a little bit of stretch, but it's really, the texture of it's really creamy. It's really light and quite fluffy, and it's like printing with whipped cream. I can't describe it. So you're not pulling like with some of your whites or some of your base whites. You really, if you're hand printing, you're like really, breaking your shoulders and your arms to get it through the screen. But it's kind of like a really nice light texture and quite nice to print with. So
what would be your go-to screen for putting an underbase down on the manual?
Probably depending on the job, like I probably a 64, 62 or a 64T I would go through. I tend to, I mean a 43, depending on, I can use a 43, but I think it tends to probably lay a bit too much down for a base. But yeah, it depends if you're going to want white to come back up through the image at any of the points, or whether or not you're going to do a highlight white, or if you're going to cheat try and get away with just putting that base down without doing the highlight. So in which case a 43 is probably better because you can get a bit more down onto the fabric.
So when you decided to stop stamping golf balls and actually get more serious about Artsu and also start printing for other people, what kit did you start with? You started with the 4-color 1 platen press. What was that, a particular brand, or was that a Chinese brand, or what?
I can't remember what that one was because I didn't keep that for long. It was like in the 80s, I think. In the 80s in Brookvale in Sydney, there was probably 10 or 15 screen printers within 5 blocks. And what that meant was that people were suddenly, like there'd be a metal worker around the corner, somebody, a fabricator, and you'd go around the corner and say, hey, can you make me this? So there's quite a few of those kind of do-it-yourself machines around, and it was most likely one of them, just an on-table one. And once I decided to leave the golf ball job, I went and bought a 6-color 4-pallet machine.
Nice.
Which was I think it could have been from Leapfrog Machine. It could have been one of the Leapfrog machines that they had in the 80s that they made. It had the ball bearing that clicked in when the board came around, and that was your kind of printing station there. And and that was a good machine. And then I bought an 8-color 8 pallet machine, which is what I was working on when we were doing the zoo gear. And I think the advantage with even like if you, I don't even know if I'd assume 6 pallets, six screens, 6 pallet machines exist, but the 8 pallet 8 screen machine, the advantage is you can print in one station, it can go under a flash, and you can have somebody else printing opposite you.
Yeah, all heads down.
So all heads down code. So it's all cool. It's like it's heading towards an I worked on an auto for about 5 years on a big TAS jumbo, and as like the autos are great if you've got the work. If you haven't got the work, then it's kind of it's sitting there idle. Then it's just taking up
expensive
space.
paperweight.
Yeah. We used to crank 400 or 500 out on that old TAS, and 400 or 500 an hour, and it's kind of. But if I don't even really take on jobs that are that size anymore. So it's kind of the market that we've kind of cornered here is more of the people who want to come in and get 20 shirts or 10 shirts printed, and I'm more than happy to do that for them, because I don't want to stand at the machine for 3 days looking at the same artwork. So it kind of keeps it a bit more interesting now.
And it sounds like it is more arty in terms of the designs and less kind of for your plumbers and your electricians and
well it is, but we do that stuff as well, of course, because it's that's bread and butter for us too, and keeping those guys happy. They tell their mates who tell their mates, and it's kind of, and they tell their mates who are in a band, or they tell their mate who's an artist down the road, or and then the label work as well. So it's a bit of a mix of everything. Like at the moment, I've got, looking at what I've got here, I've got like 6 boxes. I've got 200 t-shirts there to do for a mechanic around the corner who we get the artwork for, and it's kind of they just give them out. It's just, that's advertising for
freebies.
We've got, what else have we got? We've got a few restaurants, some surf shops that are waiting at the moment. What else I'm trying to think what else is there. It's kind of piling up because of my dry woes this week. So it's
we'll come on to those, because I know you had an interesting week.
It's been a very interesting week. So,
just one thing, it looks like you've got, do you keep screens? Are you reclaiming and recycling screens, or are you just?
So we recycle screens. So
okay.
Well, I'll keep screens for about a year, up to 12 months. And if I think that the client, the person's going to come back, then I'll keep them for longer. But otherwise, I keep them for 12 months, and then we'll distribute them.
Reclaim.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't charge for screens, so it's kind of I stopped charging for screens a while ago. So the way I price things, I try to make it as least confusing as possible for the person who's buying,
for the customer. They just don't get it, do they? They don't get the process. So
well, they don't. So it's I find it's much easier just to go, okay, so if they come in and they want 50 shirts, it's a 5-color print on an AS color shirt. I'll do the sums of what all that is, including the screens. Like if I was charging $50 a screen, I'll do all the sums of what that is, and then go back to them and say, your shirts are going to be $24 each, or $25 each, or whatever they are. And quite often people come back and go, well, what about the screen cost? I said, that includes the screen cost. And then next time they come back, the shirts will be the same price.
Right. Okay. So there's no extra discount in that sense.
No extra discount. There's no what about the screens we've already made last time? I didn't charge you to make screens last time. So if you come back, it's the same price. And then it's much easier for them to look at an invoice and go, 50 t-shirts at $20. There's $1,000. I think, there's 50 t-shirts at $12, and then there's front print at $6, back print at $4. There's 5 screens at 50, and
they can't work it out.
I find it's easier just to go, hey, this is the price of your finished garment.
And do you do all that stuff online, or is it through walk-ins, or how does?
Either walk-ins or online, or lots of word of mouth. I've got a guy who works for me who's in bands, and I know I've played in lots of bands over the years as well. So we get a fair bit of work through bands and musicians. But the majority of what has come through, Like I've actually never advertised. So whether or not it's come through the fashion side of it or does come through the website, yeah, or just through word of mouth, basically. That's where most of it's come, which I don't know, it seems to have worked for us so far. So,
and it's the best recommendation, isn't it?
that's right.
It's definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
We haven't quite done that partly because of where we're located, but
You guys are you're in Armidale, aren't you?
We are, yeah, which is why you're in a t-shirt and I'm in a hoodie, right?
I won't be in a t-shirt for long. The sun's nearly gone. Yeah. How cold is it up there today?
I think it's not too bad out there today. It's pretty cold in our little warehouse.
Yeah.
But it's been, I think we got down to -2 the other night, but it went up to like 15 in the day. So not too bad. But yeah. So we haven't, because we don't really, well, we do serve Armidale, but that's not our primary market. The word of mouth thing isn't such a big deal for us. It's all online advertising, so it is different in that regard.
Yeah, right. So where would your majority would your customers come from all over the place?
Yeah, literally. We try. It's quite difficult because we basically won't advertise in WA, Tassie, or Northern Territory, but we get orders for WA all the time, and it's frustrating because it's 5 days to get something to them. So I am trying to set up a deal. I have been trying to set up a deal for quite some time with another printer in WA just to outsource that, because we want to do a better turnaround than that. But we started a bit differently, I guess, but our markets are churches and breweries and distilleries, similar markets. We don't do much for bands. We have had a few bands through, and we've got one designer, and that's pretty much all he does as a sell-on. He just buys from us and sells on to the bands.
Yeah, right.
But we try not to market into that sector quite often, because they'll come on with a simulated process and they'll want 20 or something, and you think, how do I even explain this? But yeah, so tell us about.
They've never got any money.
Yeah, that's it. And for them,
well, they don't.
How much is it going to be? How much is it going to? How do I make it cheaper? Well, you drop a color, or you buy a ton.
It's funny. Like some of the clients I've had in the past are like large breweries, and I guess that's how they stay. I guess that's how they make money, because they're always chasing that. Can we get these for 20 cents cheaper?
Yeah.
Can we get these? Can we get these 500 shirts for 10 cents? Can we get 10 cents off? And I'm kind of like, well, you can. You're talking about, what are you talking about? $50 or kind of over an invoice of $15,000. You kind of, but that's the way that people make money, I guess, isn't it? If they can be.
I guess if they do that 10 times, but sometimes I feel like they just want to, haggle.
Well, they do.
That thing of so-and-so won't haggle. You won't haggle, mate. But if you get into some kind of negotiation, he can do them something.
Yeah.
Then I sometimes think they appreciate it a bit more, in the sense of, well, I got a different kind of commercial footing with the customer, or with the
for sure. Yeah,
the
definitely.
printer. So I do let that happen a bit. So tell us about your week. You had a frustrating week.
Oh, I've had a frustrating.
What happened? Or what didn't happen?
What didn't happen? So I was actually away Monday, Tuesday. So I've come back on Wednesday, and I knew when I went away Friday just for the weekend, for a long weekend, for a break I needed. But when I left on Friday, the dryers started playing up, and so the tunnel dryers, I think we've got it set. We've got it set around about 100. It's about 128 on the dial, on the thermostat, and it'll hold 128 for 25 minutes, and then it's about 25 minutes. It's dropping down to 80 degrees, which is a bit of a nightmare, because if we're not keeping our eye on it, then half the shirts that come out the other end aren't cured. So we've kind of been spending a week of pressing every shirt that comes out under the heat press, just to make sure that when they wash it, it doesn't wash out while we wait for somebody to come in and fix it. I've had Adam in from Leapfrog all week, and he's hasn't had much luck. We've basically replaced everything in the whole dryer, the elements, the thermostat, the relay, and it works for half an hour and then it just drops off again. So we've got I don't know, I'm kind of stumped as far as what it is, but I think I'm going to get a Sparky in on Monday.
Is that the oven in the background, that orange one?
Yeah.
Is that a heat?
Hear it, so
it's a heat seeker, isn't it?
A heat seeker, yeah.
Yeah, we got one of those in storage.
I'll send you a stick.
You can have it. I mean, they're great. They're great.
Yeah.
We replaced a few components on that. So just to clarify, I mean, it's probably a bit boring for people listening, but when you say it was dropping from, did you say 180 to 80 or something? 120 to 80?
Yeah, so I found that with the thermostat, if I set that, I think it's around about 128 to 130. Then in the middle of the dryer, because obviously it's measuring its temperature from the side of the dryer where the
probes are.
Probe comes through.
Yeah.
So if the probe's registering at about 125 to 130, the center of the dryer is around 160 to 165.
Yeah.
So where the curing needs to happen at temperature without scorching the lighter colors. So I don't want it to run too much hotter. But then, so it'd sit there at 125, and then about 25, 30 minutes in, it starts to go down and continues to go down until it hits about 80, 83, and then sits there at 80, between 80 to 85. And
is it that the digital readings still say 130 or 125?
No,
they go down.
They go down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so the whole thing goes down. Yeah. So I'd have more peace of mind if the digital reading didn't go down. But so the digital reading drops down to about 80, around 80, and it's got me stumped at the moment. It's kind of
wow.
So I'm doing printing in half-hour increments, and kind of this morning I had 120 shirts to do this morning, and basically turned the dryer on, got it going, and just went as quick as I could and got the 120 through before the temperature got down to about 110. So
okay.
And then I was like, I just can't trust it from there. So
I mean, they are old workhorses. They're quite basic in terms of the tech. I mean, all dryers are quite basic, really, in terms of the technology.
I mean, there's not that many things in them that can go wrong, unless it's a bad thermostat, which I'm going to pull out because now we've replaced the relay in it and the probe in it. I'm going to pull this thermostat out later on today and put the old one back in and see what happens with it. Because maybe it wasn't the problem, and I've kind of started the process of elimination. I've kind of started at the wrong end, and where I probably should have done the probe first, and then the relay, and then the thermostat, and then the elements. But I started the other way around. So
I hope you're able to get that. We do have one in storage if things go really badly, mate.
Yeah, right. Do you really? Yeah.
And I can grab it. Yeah. It's the 2-oven one, which I'm guessing is probably what you've got.
Yeah. So front and back, the elements. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 sets and 2 probes, 2 controllers.
Yeah.
And that for us has been absolutely amazing, that dryer.
Yeah.
Our problem was that when we increased in volume, we just couldn't get enough on it. That's all. So that's the only reason we stopped using it.
So what are you guys running? What are you guys running up there?
On dryers, we've got that one that we don't run. We've got a tiny I think it's a V1000. So it's not that's a Vastex dryer. It's not the really small one. It's the next one up, and we use that for live screen printing, of which we've only ever done one event. So don't think that we're doing tons of that. And then we've got a big, it's a Vastex. It's the infrared dryers, but we got one with 3 dryers. I was so nervous about that infrared technology not having a huge actual heating chamber. So I got 3 of them,
Yeah, right.
and with a huge lead in. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say the lead in's probably more than 1.5 meters, and it's probably 1.5 meters wide. You can literally lay a hoodie down, and that's what we wanted for volume. We run an auto now, and we've got a couple of manual presses that we do other things with, like plastisol transfers, that kind of thing, or something funky, printing a different kind of bag or something. And so, we unfortunately, it meant that we kind of ran out of space when we got that one, but it's brilliant. It's really, really good. It would be no good, and I'm sure if Adam's listening to this, he'll chuckle, but if Howard's listening to it, I'll probably get a phone call. I wouldn't feel confident using that dryer with water-based ink.
Because it's too short.
It's too short. I mean, I know it would work, but it would slow production down so much. Apparently, they do have them that have this kind of booster element at the beginning that's supposed to bring the garment and the ink up to temperature real quick. But we don't really do water-based. It's not a big deal, but it's great for us. We can get 500 through an hour very easily. But give me a shout.
I will for sure.
If you don't get anywhere with that, give me a shout. Even if I just rip something out of it and send it down for you to test, be happy to do that.
Definitely. I'll probably come up and visit you guys at some stage. I've
that'd be cool.
I've got some land at the behind Maxwell, so I can do like a cut across and
do a busman's holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you'd be very welcome.
That'd be good. What kind of auto are you running?
We're running an Anatole, 10 head, 12 platen, volts. So it's an all electric press, and we love it. I mean, of course, we're fairly new to screen printing. We didn't start in the 90s. Different story. So I don't know any other auto. I've never, I've seen a few different manuals, but I've never worked on any other kind of auto. We love it. It's quiet. It's all electric. It's fast. It's got some funky technology involved in it. And it's fairly easy to use once you really, dial the heads in well. And, we run 2 flashes on it. We're about to invest in a thing called a Stampinator. If you've come across those, basically it's an inline heat press on the press. And so basically people heat press the underbase with a Stampinator. And then, but you can also use it. We don't, at least in the past, we haven't done transfers unless it's something really funky and it's a small number. But you can use a Stampinator to run, they reckon up to 480 transfers an hour, which heat pressing isn't bad. So we're getting 2 of those. Look, we love it. I mean, but like I say, I've not tried anything else. I'd quite like to have a go on a rock and see what that's like at some point.
Oh, that's I like the sound of that press that'll press the bass. See, we're quite old. We're still in the dinosaur age a little bit here, running that 8 color, and on a cold morning I can stand there for 10 minutes setting those shirts around to get a base dry for that first round. If I haven't spent 10 minutes heating the pallets up, then it's kind of, if we're going to get cracking, then
and look, it's the same on an auto. I mean, you know that from the Taz. This has got a button you just press and the flashes just do their thing, but excuse me, it can take a while to heat them up just the same. But I don't do the printing anymore. I'm slightly ashamed to say that, because what I learned screen printing, I only learned the hard way, literally just not knowing anything at all and just watching YouTube and stuff. And I kind of feel I miss to be blunt, the kind of artisan part of manual screen printing. It is really special, and you can get a feel for what you're doing
definitely.
and kind of master that side of it, which is very different on an auto. It just turns into high volume, get them in, get them printed and get them out, which is also what we're about. We are a business, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
But what it's meant for me is it's freed me up from the printing. My daughter runs production, and there's a team. Generally, every day we've got 5 people here, and there's another 4 that do part time at different days and clean screens and stuff. So she runs all of that, and that's a massive gift to me. But I do miss doing printing. Although, you know, if you were to put me on a carousel tomorrow, I'd last about an hour, you know. If that, my body would fall apart.
It's tiring, yeah.
But I
Especially
miss it.
this time of year. This time of year is tiring as well, because most of what you're printing is hoodies and jumpers, and on a manual carousel, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Getting that thing down onto them.
So what kind of flash do you use on your manual press?
I don't know. CMYK. I think it's an old CMYK, but yeah, which the machine is as well. It's an old 8x8 CMYK as well. I've seen one other one which somebody was advertising somewhere. Yeah, but our flashes are old as well, and I'm only using one flash at the moment too. So I'm going to look at getting another flash. One of the problems that we have at the moment is the space in the factory we're in, and being on Sydney's northern beaches, rent's not cheap.
So space is a premium, big time.
So this place is good, but we've nearly outgrown it. I'd say, as you can probably see from behind me, there's stuff everywhere at the moment. So it's kind of, and come Christmas time or coming up to summer, it fills up with boxes. You know, sitting in here, and we can't see the computer from the other side of the room, where you can't see what's going on, basically. So it gets a little bit crowded. But
do you think you'll move somewhere else?
Possibly. So I've got a bunch of dogs telling me there's someone at the gate. But
okay.
I'll keep an eye out if something comes along. But it's a bit of a juggle, because I've got one guy who's working for me, and he's here 3 days a week, and in saying that, he's actually this week he's actually kind of got another job, because he's a graphic designer, and so he's been offered a job somewhere. So he's been here for a couple of years, so I'm going to have to retrain someone else now, which is which is a little. I mean, I hold no grudges at all. Like, I'm really happy for him that he's found a job in graphic design, which is great. But he was learning. He does a lot of the admin, and obviously the folding, and stripping the screens, and the stuff I've spent years doing, which I just can't bring myself to do. So, someday.
I know. And so would you, in looking for someone else, would you just get a newbie, do you think, like someone that's never done anything to do with screen printing, or would you prefer to get someone that's worked in the industry a bit before?
So it's a tough one. I don't know. I've kind of got to work that out now, because whether or not I just want to get somebody who can come in and fold for a few hours and be at the end of the dryer and catching the shirts, and if I need them to push boards to make a job quicker and pull off the shirts. Like, it's worked really well with him being able to do that, pushing the boards, pulling them off while I'm loading and printing, and then he'll be at the back of the dryer stacking them up. But he's also being really good at administration stuff as well. So, and also because he's young, the social media side and those kinds of things, he's really into it and loves doing it. So, making videos and kind of sticking on Instagram, and that takes him 5 minutes to do, or half an hour to do. Whereas to do them for me, I'd probably sit there for 2 or 3 hours. Sit for half a day, and then it goes half a day at work. So it's kind of So I think I'll probably look for someone young who's keen, and then you pretty quickly find out whether or not. Like, I think the idea of screen printing for a lot of young people is like it's really cool and funky, but then the reality of it is when they got to stand there and strip 20 screens in the middle of winter outside. It's like, oh, that's the job. Yeah, so we'll see how we go. But yeah, as far as moving to a new factory, it's that way up and keeping the work coming in, keeping someone employed. Kind of, if I've suddenly got to pay an extra 25 grand a year in rent, then it's I'm probably better off redesigning this space and utilizing what we've got here. Kind of.
Yeah, I know that's the dilemma. Yeah, even just moving to something slightly bigger can cost you an awful lot more, and the time that the actual cost of moving and
the moving
that,
costs and all of that. So it's a I think at the moment we'll stay here for as long as we can, as long as
that's the way.
as long as I don't find out that this dry problem we're having is suddenly because of a power, like we're not getting enough power to it, then that's a concern I've got as well. But
you're right. It's a single phase.
No, it's a 3-phase.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
But we've been in this factory now for 5 years, and it's been fine. So there shouldn't be. We had a guy come past out on the road here in Narrabeen in a truck, and he took the whole power line out. His truck was too tall for that, and he took the whole thing out. So that was six, 8 months ago, and it's been playing up a little bit since then. Since they
maybe it's the feed-in. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess if the feed-in switch is on a 3-phase, I don't know that much about electricity, but the digital equipment will change. Yeah, that could be it. Mention that to Adam. He probably knows that anyway, but it could be something like that happening, or maybe it damaged the circuit breaker a little bit or something. Could have done. That's constraining the feed. Yeah. Oh wow! Well, I hope this week gets a bit better then. And
Adam's so it's got to get better.
Yeah.
So I was heading on holidays at the end of next week. I was taking 2 weeks off, but I've had to kind of postpone that now. So,
but that's just to try and catch up now.
Just to catch up. Yeah. What we've got coming in, but that's good. It could be worse. I could be taking 2 weeks off because I haven't got anything coming in at all. So
yeah,
it's definitely it's not I'm not complaining about that. But yeah, so it's kind of things will get better. Things will look good again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And sure. How did you cope through COVID? I mean, that must have been.
Well, COVID was funny because going through like. I really didn't even have any time off throughout COVID. At the start of it, I just kept going because I had work there to keep going with. A lot of I do the printing for a few labels who mainly sell online, and they would sell like one garment at a time to it's like they're like a retail store online.
Yeah.
And suddenly everybody's at home, and they're getting $750 to do nothing. And what do? They're going to go online and spend money on things like clothes they can sit around at home in. So which is things like pajamas and stuff like that, which is what this label does a lot of that kind of thing. So suddenly her orders went through the roof.
Wow.
Things like sporting clubs, when people started coming back out, things like surf clubs, sports clubs, they got grants from the government to keep them going. And then so they had to go, well, we've got all this money, we've got to show that we've spent it on something. So let's get some T-shirts, let's get some uniforms. So it was actually busier through COVID than it was coming out of it.
How bizarre.
Because there was so many grants given out, and they had to use the money for things. So we found that obviously it dipped at the beginning because everybody kind of went, what's going to happen? But then once the money started kind of flowing, then people were buying stuff online, and people, you know, who'd been given grants had to spend money. Businesses who'd been given grants had to spend the money on something. They couldn't just let it sit there at the bank.
Yeah.
So it had to be used to, I guess that was the idea of it, keep the economy going to some extent.
That's right. It was all kind of pushed along that way. And I think you really benefited from COVID by the sound of it. For us, it was terrible because a lot of the stuff we were doing were kids' camps and, you know, events of 500 people, and they just couldn't do it. We just had to try and pivot at that point. And actually, we started a couple of clothing brands, which was really more to fill our time than anything. And I tried to do a kind of Aussie kind of retro brand, which just I couldn't get traction on really. I mean, I couldn't manage all the Shopify and the, you know, the order of one here and one there. And, you know, we don't do any DTG. We're like you, we're just screen printers. And
it's a really tough one, isn't it? Because it's kind of, unless you're doing the direct to garment stuff, you can setting up to do one shirt. But there's no point. There's nothing in it. You don't really want to hold stock on the shelves for you know, it's a tough one. And I think because I get quite a few people come in who are like, I'm starting a t-shirt label. These are my ideas. I just want to do some samples to begin with, and you know, but it's going to be huge. We're going to sell heaps of them.
Do millions,
And probably actually, like, as I was talking about before, that we don't charge for screens. That's kind of the only time that I actually go, okay, well, let's do your samples, and this is what it's going to cost. And because if they're just going to do samples, I'll charge for screens.
Yeah. So what would you do? What would your minimum be if you had to do samples? You just do one or two, or
I'd just do like one or two, or probably maybe a size, maybe a full size breakdown. I might do them small, medium, large, extra large kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I've got a job set up, there's no more effort in. I mean, you know, there's not a lot more effort to print 4 shirts than there is to print one. So I'll give them a size breakdown, and then they've got things for people to try on, I guess, if they're going to get a pre-order going. Like things like we're doing a job for a dance company this week, and it's for a kids dance company, but she wanted samples, so we've sampled through from size 2 through to 12, which is it's a bit of a pain, but it's like it's a 1-color front print, and for us to set up and do 4 of them or 5 of them instead of one of them's not really too much.
Have you ever thought about going to the DTG market, like getting yourself a DTG printer?
Yeah, I have thought about it, and I've had a few people try and convince me to do it as well. I don't know. It's just not something I've had the time to look at to do yet. But have you? Do you guys do DTG?
No.
Thought about it?
Yes, but not for long. You know, I feel it might be a prejudice in a way, but I feel it's cheating. And that might just be a really dumb business response. But I don't like it. We did send a job out once, an emergency job, which had, you know, it was a full sim process, and we just couldn't fit it in, and they needed it next week. And they sent us some samples up to us once they'd done the print job, and the print was okay, but the garment just stank of chemicals. And I just thought, you know, what is this? So but also I hear so many horror stories, you know.
I don't think it's not there yet. That's the thing, and I think that's what scared me off with it as well, is that the consumables are so expensive with it. It's like you think about your paper printer and how much you spend on ink for that.
Yeah.
And your cartridges are the most expensive thing, but they cost more to print it as itself. And imagine printing that into fabric, how much
Yeah.
ink you're going to go through. And I just don't think it's there yet as far as the longevity of the print on the shirt either. I don't know. I mean, I don't really. It's pretty rare that I go out and actually buy any clothing these days anyway. But I haven't bought and I haven't bought anything that's direct to garment. But I've got a client, and sometimes occasionally she'll get samples done direct to garment, and I know that after probably 6 to 8 or 6, 8, 10 washes, the print's really kind of, you know, it's really faded out and really gone. Whereas I'll say to people that the print on your shirt's going to outlast the shirt.
Yeah.
The print will still be standing in the shirt. The shirt will be falling off you. You know, it'll flake away before the print does.
Yeah, exactly.
Screen print. So
no, I feel like it's cheating. I don't like the smell of them and the chemicals that you used, but you hear, you know, the white underbase, head getting clogged all the time. And I just think, man, I can't be bothered with that.
No, exactly.
I think direct to film is a better solution for those types of things. But we got a job on at the moment, actually, where a big dance group, and we do them quite regularly. It's a lovely 7-color, really nice graphic. It's a spot process. It's not a simulated process. But they also want, I think, 100 or maybe a bit more of really light polyester polos from different manufacturer. And I'm going, oh, right, okay, we've got a ton of these to do on a cotton t-shirt. I don't feel comfortable doing those on a poly garment. So I said to them, look, would you be okay with a transfer? And they were like, yeah, not a problem. They just use them to practice, apparently. And so I put that out to Supercolor. And they asked for the Pantones, and I gave them the Pantones. And I said, you know, this is going to be a really interesting test, because I told them we're going to be printing a bunch on cotton, and, you know, we'll be mixing up the Pantones here. And he was like, oh yeah, that will be interesting. And I thought, oh, boy, I hope this, you know, because I don't want the customer to see 2 different colored pinks or whatever, you know. So that's going to be a bit of fun. And I suspect the guys here will get a bit stressed about it.
Wait till the transfers come back and then match your colors.
Well, that's the other thing we could do, and just make sure they mix well.
Safe.
So you're potentially looking at another spot. You don't really need new kit apart from potentially an oven. Hopefully not. Are there any other plans, like strategic kind of ideas about where you might take the business, new markets, or just to carry on as you are?
I think at the moment I'm happy carrying on as we are. Like we've built quite a bit over the last kind of 2 or 3 years. Admittedly, the end of last year was it was fairly slow, but I think everybody kind of interest rate rises hit everyone, and they don't want to spend any money at all. But that's kind of come back now, and I'm kind of happy where it's a funny one, because I've always been about having that, I guess, that work-life balance kind of thing. But I've never wanted to get too big where I'm in here every 7 days a week. I'm trying to, but I guess like yourself, it's probably I'd like to be able to get people in printing so I can take care of other sides as well. So that's
building a team to kind of release you from the printing ultimately. I think that's a good goal.
I think so, definitely. But I mean, I still enjoy the print side. Like, I still enjoy doing hand printing a job, and the customer coming in, and if the print will look awesome, and I'll be really stoked with it. It's like, it's a good feeling pulling off those jobs that work really well. Like, we do quite a lot with 4-color process, and we kind of we can get some really good results with that. So
obviously that needs to be on a white substrate, but do you ever do that thing where people lay down an underbase, say on a black tee, and then put a color
Yeah,
on
so
top?
we do that. I mean, I don't like doing it. I'll do it, but I've tried a couple of different methods of doing it. Like probably the best, I'd say the best way to do it is to do it with a discharge base, but it's tricky. It's a tricky process. I don't know how you go doing that on an auto. I think it's something that you probably, I mean, obviously you can do a discharge completely with where every color is, but you still need a white base under it for
Yeah.
the process to work. But a discharge base with a 4-color process, plastisol print on top, we've found can work as well.
Just give me some info on that. Like we've done discharge in the past,
Yep.
but run it slowly through the dryer as you should to get that full effect. How do you do that on the press? You just over flash it, or like
Just
leave
got
it
to
for
get
longer?
you've got to get the pallets hot, basically. But it's like I say, I don't do it often. I'll do it on Artsu stuff, but I don't think it's reliable enough to do on on a lot of shirts. If the client's happy with a vintagey kind of feel at the end of it, and you've kind of got that point of difference with every shirt, it's going to be a little bit different, but still look really cool. It's good for that. If it's a corporate client, I don't know. So you got to get the pallets really hot. The trouble with discharge is the shirts tend to lift off the pallet because it's like it eliminates the glue underneath, the moisture from it. So any spray that you've got, or any glue or any stick that you've got on the pallet seems to disappear pretty quickly. So, but yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a real. You can almost print the discharge and then print the 4-color process. And I've done this in the past. Print the discharge, print the 4-color process, and you're pretty much printing blind, like you can't see it. And then it goes into the dryer and comes out the other end, and it's like, oh, it looks amazing. Or it's like, oh shit, that didn't really work. How many did we do? How many we got spare? But yeah, like I've had it and it's worked fantastically. But yeah, then there's been times where so it can be a bit hit and miss. It's probably not something that's supposed to be done either. And maybe a water base over the top of discharge would probably be a better thing to do. But water base through 90s and 100Ts, when you're hand printing, it's sitting there on the screen, and it's one dries out. By the time you finish cleaning that one out, the next one's dried out, and then the next one's dried out. Your blacks sits near the flash, or it gets too hot near the pallet. That's dried out. And not only have you got to pull the job down and start again, but you're probably going to have a nightmare getting that ink out of the screen at any time. So
no, that's one of the reasons we just can't really touch water based up here, especially. You're a little bit more humid down there, but here it's very, very arid.
Dry. Your climate's quite dry, isn't it? It's kind of
no, it's very, very dry. So do you have any issues that you regularly have, like that drive you mad? Like, I've got one friend that has actually not that old a press, and it has micro reg, but it constantly goes out of reg and it drives him mad. Like, do you have anything like that in your setup? I mean,
I've had little issues like that kind of, it's like the rego, it'll be like, oh, the rego's really tight on this job. Let's not use pallet 6 because there's something going on with pallet 6. And instead of spending an hour going, oh, what is it? Where is it? I'll just go, let's just not use it on this job kind of thing. So there is those issues, and then sometimes they just sort themselves out and they're gone. But yeah, there's nothing really that kind of, I think by now I've kind of learned what to use and what not to use. So, and I've found a way around, or I've found a different solution.
Yeah,
problems like that occur. But yeah, and what I need to, like, if say pallet 6 does go out, then I know what needs tightening and where and why that's going out. So it's kind of, yeah, once I've figured those things out, and yeah,
I think
it's more
that's
things
one of
on
the,
the dryer, the dryer.
yeah, right. Well, that's a real sort of funky one, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's a real
yeah,
out of the ordinary one. And I think, it seems to me that a lot of screen printing is working out issues,
yeah,
like something, it's just something a bit different about this print. You're not quite sure what it is. Maybe one of the screen tensions isn't good enough, or the platen is a bit odd, or it's not leveled, or whatever it is. And it seems to be about just working that out and resolving it job by job.
yeah.
I think that's much harder on an auto. I'm sure all the people that use autos would disagree with me on that. But the variable, it seems like there are a lot more variables that can go wrong on an auto. And it's partly because you can't feel it. You can't get that sense of, when you're printing, I don't know, 400 or 500 T's manually, apart from your arms falling off, you know how the print works, you know how it runs, and you're looking at it, you're lifting the screen and looking at it. Yeah. Rather than it coming around and going, oh goodness, what's happened there? And just making those tiny adjustments. And I think that's something that we really struggled to get our head around when we went to an auto. Everything was new, the pressures, the angles, the amount of ink you have to put in, adding more reducer, just to get it
Just
through.
keeping that ink flow up on the autos as well, like keeping that ink in there all the time. And
Yeah.
something goes wrong on your first or second head, and you've lost 10 shirts.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Exactly.
And if you haven't got somebody witty, like somebody there who's with it who's pulling the shirts off, and they miss 5 of them, there's another,
It doesn't happen. They
they
don't
miss
notice
a piece of thread. It's
exactly. Yeah. Piece of thread. Yeah. And it's the person at the end of the dryer that goes, guys, have you noticed there's a line here, or whatever it is?
How many? Oh, that happened 35 shirts ago. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
oh yeah, it's on the first head. Oh yeah, there's a round on as well. So I know.
that's very frustrating. And obviously they try and minimize that, and most of the time it works fine. But I miss a manual for that reason as well, being able to see it straight away. And even let's say one of the top colors moves slightly. Sometimes you can just compensate by pushing the screen, or you're changing the angle.
Pushing it or pulling it, or using snap close to the print as well.
Yeah.
So just by putting a piece of sponge within 5 centimeters to the bottom of the print, you can raise the print by 3 or 4 mils. So which you don't really have that option on the auto as well, because you're also flooding the complete screen all the time.
Correct.
With your auto, and it's kind of and you can't just go, oh, let's just push it, like let's just push it.
Let's just
change a little bit to the left
now.
this time.
Correct.
But,
you're limited to what you can do. You might change the squeegee angle. And you might drop the pressure on one side a bit more or whatever, but it's limited
to do that.
Yeah.
So let's just give it a little bit more angle, get that little bit more ink down. You get the feel for those things straight away on the manual machines. It's like straight away you'll be, this rubber's too soft, this squeegee's too soft. Let's go to a green, and let's reduce the amount of angle and get sharper through, or it's kind of with the auto you don't really get those. I guess if you're getting it set up all the time properly, I suppose you get to know it, but you don't get the feel of it. It's
that's the problem. And the other thing that happens a lot, or can happen a lot, is, let's say you've got an 8-color job. Like we've got a 10 head press, but we run 2 flashes. So generally we'll max out at 8. But if it's a really cool job that's sim process, we can probably hit 9. We just rip out one of the flashes. But if you get one of those screens in the wrong order, like for a good simulated process, we just outsource that artwork to Graphic Source, and they may get this screen order wrong, and you don't know, right? You got to head 6 and it's like, oh, that really needs to be a 9, you know. On a manual, that's not a problem. You just spin it until you get to that. You just change the order, right? So you're then faced on an auto with saying, do we run this in cycle mode, which of course your whole production rate just falls through the floor, or do we rip that, switch those screens out and redo the registration? And you know, once you've got the rego dialed in, generally people don't want to do that one. So that's the other thing that can be very different. But then again, when you're doing an 8 or 9 color and you've got it, you know, dialed right in, to take a t-shirt off every 4 seconds with 9 colors is pretty exciting, right? So
exactly,
you get the benefit at that point.
Oh, totally.
So how about the business end of what you do? I mean, it's difficult for all of us as small business owners and runners, right? Running the business as well as owning it, because we're doing the screen printing, we're, you know, doing the liaison with customers and so on. I mean, do you outsource your accounts? Do you do all your bookkeeping yourself? Like, how does that end of the business work?
I outsource my accounting, like the BASs and all of that.
Yeah.
I do the rest. I do the books, the rest of it myself. Which isn't too bad because my account's quite good. You can kind of take care of. I'll basically tell him what we've spent, tell him what we spend it on, and tell him what's come in, and he'll do it from there.
Yeah.
So, and then, but I mean, yeah, like you say, you've kind of got to be able to liaise with the customers, and and you've got such a varied customer base as well. From like we deal with anything from, I think we're doing some stuff for Transport New South Wales, so corporate style clients like that, through to the plumber down the road who wants 5 shirts, and it's everything in between. So you kind of got to, I think you got to be quite open to dealing with everybody. Kind of, I mean, I guess that's business, though, isn't it? But yeah, it's, I don't know. I just juggle it. It's kind of like I usually set Monday aside to get organised and do emails and probably get 1 or 2 jobs in. You know, I might only do 50 shirts on a Monday, and then Tuesday and Monday will be used for making any new screens and getting all that kind of anything organised that we need for the week that we haven't done, and putting orders through. And then Tuesday we're pretty much into printing, and we'll be back and forth answering emails and doing quotes.
Yeah, okay. And do you find at the end of the day you're able to just go home and shut off?
Not as much as I'd like to. Like, quite like recently I've found myself here till 6:30, 7 o'clock a lot of the time. And in winter that's kind of like, I feel a bit ripped off. It's like you don't get to see the sun. So, but you know, that's part of that. I totally understand why now that's part of running a business too. And with that comes the good and the bad. So it's kind of it's not all arty screen prints and kind of and fun like that. So the work side of it as well.
Yeah, I mean it is a
it's
work job type thing where you have to put in the hard graft as well as all the kind of soft nice stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if something's not done, I mean that's part of working for yourself too, isn't it? If you've got a deadline for something that's got to be done, it's on your back, really. You know, it's kind of, you've got to get done by then, and you can get your workers to stay back and stuff, but at the end of the day, if they're going to leave at 5:30, so they've got to go to dinner or whatever they're going to do, you've got to stay there till it's done. So that's just part of owning a business. It's kind of
Yeah, it's an old adage I often kind of quote that I heard, which was, I didn't like working 9 to 5, so I started my own business, and now I work 24/7.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's never quite what you think it is. There's always something that needs to be done.
Yeah, no, totally. So it doesn't stop, does it? It's kind of
No. And so,
and even
but
when
I
you
find it,
reply, it's still like I'm still getting emails and phone calls and stuff when I'm on holidays, and I'm like, oh, like I'm back next week. I'll look at it then, and then it's in your brain. Like you can't just switch it off and kind of go.
yeah,
I'll let the boss deal with that. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's still
it
there.
does.
Yeah,
I find it very, very hard, I've got to confess, and
yeah,
been in business for quite a while with other things. And this, I love this business. This is without a doubt my favorite one,
yeah,
but I find it so difficult to stop thinking about it and stop, coming up with new ideas or remembering things.
yeah,
This
yeah,
morning, and for those listening, this is a Saturday. I had a customer write, I don't know, probably early hours of the morning, saying, just received an email from your system telling me that the job's going to be printed on the 19th. I need these at the end of next week. We discussed this and so on. And I wrote back and said, look, the trigger for payment is, the thing that starts the process. And then he didn't realize that, his accounting department or whatever had only just paid it. And I was like, right, I need to burn those screens now. I need to find out where the stock, it's a Saturday, man, and the guys will get it sorted on Monday, but it just never seems to go away.
Yeah, they're hassling you on the Saturday. I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly what it. What exactly what you mean. But you get like I'll get an email. I'll get emails at 11 o'clock on, 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, and and it's like, unfortunately, you pick up your phone and you go through and
That's the mistake.
oh, it's there, and it's like, oh,
that's where we go wrong.
It is, but it's hard not. But you kind of because you're thinking about it all the time.
Yeah,
But yeah, and then I've got a few clients. Like, I find cafe owners are probably the worst as far as, and I love them. Don't get me wrong. Like I've got some nice friends who are clients who are cafe owners, but they'll put an order through, and then they'll email me through an order, and then they'll call me 2 hours later and go, "Did you get that order? When's it going to be ready?"
When can I have
and
them?
I'm just like, did you just have another coffee? Like, you're too busy in the cafe just drinking coffee all day. But yeah, they're kind of they're the ones who I find are like, I just put an order through. When do you think it'll be ready? Have you ordered them yet? So I haven't even looked at it yet. Just wait till the invoice comes, and then we'll go from there. So
You take payment up front? Would you?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about that when you were talking about how your system sends that out. So I don't do anything anymore until we've got payment. So everything's paid up front.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even sampling, I don't even do it until we've had the samples paid for. So I've just found that over the years, because I didn't used to. I started doing 7 days or 30 days or cash, CODs, and people would turn up and pick the stuff up, and they're like, "Oh, the event's tonight. Yeah, we really need it." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, but you got to pay the invoice." And at that stage, I didn't have, we didn't have Square. To have an FPOS machine was costing you like $100 a month, and it wasn't worth it. The banks were taking. So everything was transferred over or cash, and clients would come in and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, but the event's tomorrow. We'll pay it. Don't worry, we'll take them. We'll pay it tonight." And so often it'd be 2 weeks later, you'd be calling them going, "Why why didn't you pay? Why?" It's like, you said you were going to pay that night. So now everything's just up front. It's it's 100% up front, and it's kind of that covers us for the stock. So it means we can order the stock straight away. We're not worrying about
cash flow.
Not worrying about cash flow. And the only thing it means now is now we've kind of got this list of jobs that have all been paid for.
I know.
Got to do them.
You got to get them done. Yeah.
There's no reward at the end of getting the job done now. It's like, oh, we finished that. Phew, we can get paid. So it's already been paid, which is great. Which is it's just makes it run so much more smoothly to have that.
What's your turnaround time? Like, what would you generally let a customer know?
At the moment, we're running on about 3 to 4 weeks. So yeah, there was like a few years ago we were running around 10 days, but now I'm telling customers 3 to 4 weeks now.
Yep.
Just gives us a little bit more space and kind of, and I mean we need it at the moment because we've just got a backlog of that because there's only me and then Oscar who works here. He's in here 3 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week. So yeah, it just that's we're struggling with 3 to 4 weeks a little bit at the moment. So, but we're catching.
I think
up,
that's common, right? Like, you know, every screen printer
so.
has to kind of cope with that.
I think that, you know, obviously if something comes in and it's urgent, first of all, I'll be like, well, why didn't you think about it earlier? But also I'll get it done for them. Like and I think having that 3 to 4 week lead time gives you that flexibility to be able to move a client to the next week so you can get something which is needed by the end of it. Yeah.
And if someone came in, you know, Monday, and notwithstanding you've got a bit of a funky dryer at the moment, but under normal circumstances and said, you know, I need something tomorrow, would you charge extra for that or would you just make it happen?
I guess it really depends on what it is as well. I probably would charge extra, but at what percentage I don't know. It's hard to say. And a lot of it comes down to the attitude of the person and the customer as well. It's kind of you know, whether or not I'm happy to help them out. And, but yeah, we could usually if we had the stock here, we could turn around, and I'd probably put a little bit extra on it. But not if it's screens we've already got and we've got the stock. I'd just charge it the normal price, and you know,
So if it's a regular customer of yours, you can pull the screens down and make it happen.
Straight away. Yeah. Would you charge extra for? I guess that's where the direct to garment kind of thing comes in handy, doesn't it?
I guess, yeah. Look, we definitely charge extra. We actually charge 30% extra for an expedited order. But and it's mostly to put people off, you know, it's a funny thing because sometimes people have a genuine deadline. You know, they've got an event and if it's not there by Friday, it's all over, and that's different. But sometimes people just want a queue jump. And you're the one that ends up kind of getting abused in the relationship, you know. And so we throw that in front of them and let them know that it's not an expedited delivery. It's an expedited print job because, you know, I mean, we might well end up putting it on an overnighter or something, depending on where it's going.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like you're just pulling it off the shelf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like you've got their garments ready to go.
Yeah.
It's not like, we kept 50 spare just in case you wanted these next time. It's like, we'll just pull them off the shelf and express them to you. It's like, no, there's a fair bit involved in getting that ready for you. So
and so it's a deterrent and it works most of the time, but it also helps us sort out those people that will wait. There's a lot of people go, oh no, I'll just wait, don't worry, you know. And we'll say, look, you know, what is your drop dead date? We'll try and make it happen, which isn't always possible. But if someone goes, that's fine, I'll pay it, we actually often shift on the price because we know that they're actually desperate. They haven't got, you know, the last port call.
Because there is nothing worse than having that pressure from customers. I need to pick it up Thursday. I need to pick it up Thursday afternoon. I need it Thursday afternoon, and then it's still sitting there. Like it may not happen so much for you because you guys are freighting a lot of stuff out, I'd imagine. But for us, we get a lot of pickups here. So I need it Thursday afternoon. Got to have it by Thursday, and then Friday afternoon you call them and it's like we're about to close, and we made sure we had it ready for you yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll come in on Monday and get it. Yeah. So you get that a lot, but that's at least the job's done then. You've done.
You don't have to worry about the print job, but
if
it's bumped another customer out in the queue, it's not great. But yeah, it's like all those things, though, isn't it? The customers are often the worst part of any job,
Yeah. But we'd be gone without them, I guess, wouldn't we? We can't.
Well, that's the thing. They're a necessary evil. I hope none of my customers are listening to me saying that. Yeah. But sometimes, I don't know, does this happen to you where you got a customer, maybe they're one of those customers that's, a new customer, let's say, and they've sent in a quote and you've done your quote and they put in the order and they're on the phone, when can I get these? Do you find that you can pick a bit of a bad customer sometimes?
Straight away. I can pick it from the first quote. From the first request of quote, I think now, and there's a few times I've been wrong, but I can pick it by I can pick it by the detail or what they're asking in their quote, whether or not what sort of a nightmare it's going to be, or whether or not they just don't know. I guess sometimes they just don't know what they're asking. They've been told what to ask by somebody. Ask whether or not they can embroider them as well as print them, and if they are, and it's like a A2 size back print. It's like ask whether or not they'll embroider. It's like it's kind of you get those. You do get those questions. The other quotes that I kind of steer away from either like from answering at all are the ones where they've CC'd everybody who's on. Like if you went to AS Color and there's a list of Screenprinters, they've CC'd everyone on the list, and that comes up, and they always start with, "Hey team, can you give us a price on? We're looking to do 7 shirts in 8 colors," and that one's not for us.
We built a little. I don't know if you have this, but we have a little online form system for different garment types, and people are often trying to bypass that through Facebook or by emailing directly, "Hey team," or whatever. And we just bounce them back. We just say, "Look, this is the conduit. You go through this channel that gathers all the info we need, but until you do that, we can't." And that sometimes filters out those time wasters. But then you get those quotes where someone's come on and it's a clothing brand, let's say, and they want to print on both sleeves, a nape of the neck, a base at the back, a flank print, everything conceivable. And you think, this is going to take me ages to do a mock-up. And right now it's for 20 shirts, and they're promising they're going to do 1,000.
Thousands, huge.
And I'm really quick with those people. Sometimes I don't quote, sometimes I just write back and say, "Look, you can't afford this, think again or go somewhere else." It's funny how you do notice them. And I'll tell you one we had one time, and it was a customer that did a bit of repeat business with us, like quite a bit. They had a clothing brand. I think they were restaurateurs as well. I think we did some, uniform stuff. And they needed something super urgent. It was for some special event, and it was a 4 or maybe 5 color job. It was just a front print. And 9 times out of 10, if it's a big print, they want it as big as they can, right? Can you make it bigger? Can you make it bigger? So we printed this big. They never asked for it big, but we printed it to scale. And they demanded an absolute refund because the front print was too big. And I remember saying to the lady, "You're about to, get barred from us. You don't realize what, it was just unbelievable." we're going to take you to the ombudsman. And I said, that's good, you know, and you should if you think this is really, you know, bad. But we just block those customers now, you know, like if they come back, we have kind of sacked a few customers, which I found hard. But
well, it's
funnily
hard,
enough,
and you don't want to do that either, because you kind of, I mean, you never want to really knock back work, but at the same time, the headache that can come from that can sometimes far outweigh the benefits from it.
yeah,
Definitely. It's,
absolutely. And they probably won't come back anyway, you know what I mean?
No.
And sometimes I find we haven't had too many customers like that. And sometimes, you know, you might have a customer like that where you genuinely have stuffed up. And that's great because you can go back and fix the issue, and then you got a different kind of relationship that develops.
Sure.
But it's those ones that are trying to push the envelope a little bit too far. I get that.
We had one not so long ago where we'd printed the shirts, and something, we'd had to remix the ink, the color halfway through. We'd run out of ink. I thought we could get away with the amount of ink we had, and we got to the last 10 shirts and had to mix some more. And the color was slightly different. It was minutely different, but it mixed with the color that we had in the screen. I made the mistake. I didn't pull everything out and then mix it all.
Yep.
Put the new ink in with the old ink. And at the half, there was like 2 rounds left, I think. And that next round, the ink had a little bit of, it was a pink, and it had a little bit of pink and orangey pink. So it's like this peachy pink. And it had a little bit of mix go through some of the shirts. So the print ended up this a little bit two-toned.
Yep, gotcha.
So, and we didn't really notice it at the time because it wasn't standing out. Anyway, so the client got the shirts. They were happy. Then she emailed me, I think a week later, and said, "Oh, noticed that some of the colours are a little bit different." I just immediately said, I immediately went, "Okay, that's probably because I've done that." And I said, just let me know what sizes there are. Let me know what sizes there are, and I'll just replace them. I'll order them straight away and just replace them for you. But bring back the ones which have gone bad, and I'll swap them over. So she emailed me through this list of, I think it was about 25 shirts. So I ordered them, reprinted them. I said, they're ready, just bring back the other ones. She came back with 3 shirts. and I was kind of like, look, here's your shirts, but what happened to the other 22 shirts that you said were terrible?
Yeah.
Like, where did they go? It's kind of, did you just want freebies to hand out, or it's like, kind of doesn't, I understand, and straight away I went, yep, we'll replace them for you, but just bring back the ones that don't just bring back one and go, yeah, this is what happened to them all, because it's kind of, that doesn't happen often, but you do get those customers, and whether or not they've genuinely gone, oh, they don't need them, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had anything like that kind of.
Oh yeah. We get the ones we get are, and strangely enough, it does seem to be clothing brands.
Yeah.
They're not quite happy, or maybe the placement's out a tiny bit on a couple of the shirts, but the comment they give you is, we can't sell these.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair comment, right? Like, I get it. They're trying to run a business.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, at that point, I think, right, okay, you need to try and do something. So at that point, I asked for the garments back, and, you know, say, look, we'll take a look at them, and we'll resolve it on the basis of what we see. And we had a customer, and it was Tanks. Got a feeling it was a tattoo artist, actually. Can't recall, but it had on the front, it had a very narrow sort of sternum print. It was, you know, it was only this long, and it was really narrow. And to be fair, a couple of them were just slightly out. You know, on that, let's say a 5XL, it wasn't quite in the center. But they gave us all of them back, and said they're all wrong. And I said, we'll redo the couple or three or whatever it was, but the others are actually fine. And, you know, they don't understand. I mean, I guess it's like a lot of customers, they just don't understand what screen printing is. And somehow there's some, you know, DTG. Well, even with a DTG, you've still got to load a pattern, you know,
position.
And so they don't get the whole thing of every T-shirt is going to be slightly different in terms of placement or whatever. And I find that frustrating. But we just push back and say, no, it's only these two. The others are fine. But we do, you know, if we do have issues, we solve them as best we can.
Well,
but I did have one recently where a customer wanted a 6-color print on the back. And I think it was a 2-color on the front, and it was a light garment. It was a hoodie, but they wanted a small order. And I was like, look, this is going to cost you, you know, and they weren't happy with the placement on the back. And I just had to say, you know, we really can't help you, you know. And in one case, it was 10 mil out, you know.
Yeah, right.
So, but it's hard as well, because those customers, you want to help grow them and so on. But
well, that's it. Yeah.
Managing expectation in this business is quite difficult sometimes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you were saying, like you were talking about before, there is quotes where we'll, and I hope customers don't, I hope customers aren't listening to this, but we will overquote it because it's a nightmare, you know, like you're saying. But then quite often, I'd say they're going at other quotes, and they probably still come back and go, "Oh, let's do it anyway," and then we've got to do the job. So, you know, we've got one customer, and she comes in with 6 T-shirts once every 2 years for this enormous 6-color print on the front and a 2-color print.
6 T-shirts.
6 T-shirts. So, and I'll say, look, our minimums. We need to do a minimum for this sort of print. We need to do a minimum of 24. We need to at least get 3 rounds on that machine to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, these shirts are going to cost you $145 each.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll pay $145 a shirt. So it's like, I mean, you kind of, you what do? Then you go and you do the job, but I guess it's kind of some.
It's a bit frustrating, though.
But it is frustrating. It's like, come on, like they're going to cost you. They're going to cost you maybe $28 a shirt if you do 24 of them for something like that, or you can pay $140 a shirt for 6 of them. Like, do the math.
It's just not. But I mean, to load up, you know, that's not even a full carousel. Do you know what I mean? And you know. You've gone through the artwork, you've gone through the screens, the taping up, the inks, and registering.
A lot of work in that,
and it's done in 40 seconds. You know,
it's done in 40 seconds, and then you got to flip it around and do the other side of it. It's kind of
That's crazy.
And I guess that's where that direct-to garment kind of would come in handy, and you can just kind of go, see how it goes.
Or go to the transfer. I can see your heat press right there. I think that's the super color transfer is the answer.
There was another these guys that came across the other day. That's not bad. These guys. I don't know if you can see that.
Create DTF, direct to film. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you've done anything with those guys, but
no.
I was on their website, and they kind of, I've had a few sample transfers, and they seem to have turned out quite well. I mean, for transfer, transfers are the last thing that I'll put them on hats, but I rarely put them on a garment. But they turned out really well, and I think they do. I think it's something like you can fill a meter's worth of film at 50 centimeters wide. You can fill a meter's worth of film with whatever you want.
Yeah, right. That's cool.
So, you can stack them. You can stack 70 of them on a meter's worth of film, or however many you can stack, and it's something like 20 $8 a meter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, and I know I was kind of looking at it going, that can't be right. Like,
how do they make money out of that?
It's going to put us out of business.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's like a. Let's see what else is in the pack they sent. I don't know if this is the kind of thing we should be talking about. But, you know, like these kinds of designs.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and there's your colors don't matter. It's kind of, and there's I mean, it's that coming out of a printer, so it's kind of, it is what it is. But for
I'm talking, I've got some here. This is super color. I'm talking about this kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That looks like a photo, but it's actually a photo that's been high res vectored.
Yeah,
I don't know. You probably can't quite see that. It looks just like a photo.
Yeah, it does.
And I got these as samples done. This was with super color in New Zealand.
Yeah.
A mate in WA put me onto them because he was saying, "Oh, we get them out of New Zealand," and I'm like, "Gee, how long does that take to get to WA?" He said, "Oh, not long." So I was onto them, and they ran off these as samples for one of our customers, and they were here in 2 days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that mattered to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they weren't as cost effective, perhaps, as you were describing there. Was that other company a Sydney-based company?
Pretty sure they are. Yeah. Auburn. So yeah, they're in Sydney.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Create DTF. And,
Okay.
you basically upload your artwork to their template online and send it in, and it's with you like within Sydney. It'll be with you the next day. Probably for you guys, it'll take another day, I guess. It's kind of,
yeah. So you use Leapfrog Ink Spot for your consumables.
Yeah.
And Leapfrog machinery for your machinery.
Yeah.
Do you have any other common vendors that you use?
Really? I mean, I think, well, besides the look, I could probably everything that comes through here probably comes down between Leapfrog Ink Spot, Leapfrog Machinery, AS Color.
Yeah.
They're the three predominant things that we get supplies from. Yeah, I find that I can get everything I need from Shane. At Leapfrog.
Shane's also really good for advice. He's always willing to help.
Yeah,
really.
I think the fact that he was a printer himself.
Yeah.
And then Jeff's no longer there with him, but Jeff was a printer and who used to make all the screens there. So he's a bit of a bank of knowledge as well. So it's between those guys, you could always kind of work out what was going on, if something was going wrong, or what was the best solution or the best thing to use. So yeah, I'd go down there and kind of spend an hour there talking with them about what I'd used, or Shane would quite often give me stuff to sample with and try out for him. So yeah, it's kind of
it's good.
Yeah.
So
how long would it take? Does it take for you to get supplies up to Armidale?
Oh, it's next day. Yeah, it's next day. We just FedEx them up. The guys in the depot, we can go down there at 7 a.m. if we need to, but they'll deliver in. So that's next day. AS Color 2 to 3. Probably more 3 to be fair. We sometimes buy Gildan stock for, a church where kids are buying their own garments. They don't want an AS Color or something expensive. We also have JB's where we take a bit longer. Gildan stock would be here. They used to be next day. It's sort of changed since COVID.
They've gotten a bit longer. We do a little bit of Gildan stuff. We've been doing a bit of the price point. I can't justify using Gildan over AS Color for the price point. So what percentage of what you do would be from AS Color, do you think?
I'm going to say 95%. Yeah. I'd like to open up to JB's wear a little bit more in the workwear market, particularly. It's not normally something we do, but it's started to kind of trickle in and people have started asking. But a bit like you, because we're doing a lot of clothing brands and, you know, merch that's for sale in one way or another, AS Color just, you know, give us the best thing. And
they just provide the best product, I think, for that kind of market.
And a really good print. You can lay down a really nice print on their garments, and I can't tell you why. I'm sure someone
well, the cotton's been combed. So compared to a carded, like the Gildan, your classic Gildan's a carded cotton. So it's unbrushed basically, whereas your AS Color cottons are combed cottons. So they're
okay. That's interesting.
They're just going to take the ink. It's like I don't know. It's like if you think about painting on a recycled paper, rough paper, as opposed to a smooth paper.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. You get next to no fibrillation with their garments. They sometimes run a.
The only thing which I find, well, I mean, and this is with all fleece, I guess. We roll everything before we print it now. So with a lint roller.
Okay.
With all the fleece basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, and I don't know if you guys do. I don't know on an auto where you do that though either.
We use a roller.
So we use a roller.
Yeah.
We have to. It's kind of
It's not so bad on the AS Color because it got a high percentage of cotton, but and I guess Gildan are getting that way as well, but they're generally okay, and we'll usually roll them after the underbase, so the underbase flash and then the roller go over it, and that seems to keep it together. But I really like AS Color. I think their products are just minted, and it's clear. You know, I've been listening to some of the podcasts in the US and also in the UK, and people seem to be quite skeptical about this company called AS Color. But now everyone in the US and the UK are using them. I mean, I know there's all the kind of niche ones. You mentioned Stanley Stella earlier on, and Bella Canvas and those kind of guys.
Which is good. Like they do, some of their products are great, but you're waiting 7 days for the shipment to arrive because most of it's coming from Turkey or from somewhere in Europe. And the prices they just can't compete for what the end product is. It's like, for AS Color, you can order an organic shirt through AS Color for half the price of what. And that's not including the freight. So it's kind of it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
I think AS Color have positioned themselves very well and are growing. You know,
I remember when they were when I used to go there when they were just a small factory in Marrickville, and there was like 6 of them working in there.
Wow, is that right? That's incredible.
It was still when I was going into the city quite a bit and going to the dye houses in Marrickville and Makers, and I'd drop into AS Color and have a chat with them and see what they were doing, because they used to do a prepared for garment dye tee. So there'd be some jobs where I'd go and pick that up, and then I'd go and get a color made from, or get it dyed around the corner in Sydenham to a color, and they'd made the tee, because when you're doing prepared for garment dye tees, the cut's different to what your normal t-shirt would be, because you've got to allow for probably about 15% shrinkage lengthwise, about 8% shrinkage widthwise, and also your stitching's got to be all in a cotton wound polyester. Otherwise, you end up, if you're dyeing a black shirt, you end up with white stitching around your collars.
Oh, okay, got it. So
you've got to use a different thread for making any garments that are going to be prepared for garment dye. So AS Color used to do them, which was really handy for me if I needed to get stuff out quick without having to make it. So That was back in the early days, but they don't do them anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think there's enough dye houses around for them to kind of to make it worth
do that.
it.
Yeah. So let's talk about tips and traps if we can, and
Sure.
also advice for people starting out. Do you have any tips and traps around how you process things or how you print that you might want to share?
Gosh, it's hard to, without standing in a machine and being asked the question while and going through the process of doing it. Sponge on the back of your screen.
Yep.
Is can be a lifesaver sometimes. I don't like you guys get that snap straight away with an auto machine where whether you set your height and it'll bounce back. Sometimes with this machine, if we've got quite a large space to print, and if you're right on you've got to have that gap. This is for people who are just starting out. You've got to have that. You've got to have that snap back after you print it. Otherwise, your shirt's going to lift with the screen. And if you've got another color to put on, then you can basically throw that away. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're hand printing, just a little bit of sponge to lift so the image goes bang straight back up.
Where'd you put the sponge? Sorry, just
I'll show you. I'll show you what I mean. So this screen's been stacked a bit, but you can see. So that's the back of the screen. You can see this 2 bits of sponge there.
Yeah.
2 bits of sponge there.
Okay.
So it means when I run that squeegee through, I don't have to wait for this because the machine's got its own snap springs on it, but I don't straight away. That screen goes bang straight back up. Gotcha. So it doesn't stick to the shirt at all.
Got it.
The only thing that you got to, if you're doing that, is you got to put it on. Once you've finished setting up, you got to put it on all your screens.
Got to do what was that?
Got to put it on every screen, otherwise your edge is going to go out.
Your edge is going to go out. Yeah, got it. Yep. Okay, that's a really cool one. I've never heard of that. And you've got rear clamps on your press.
Side clamps.
Side clamps. Okay.
Yeah, side clamps on the press. Yeah.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it just gives it that extra straight away up kind of thing, so you're not sticking to the back of the screen.
Neat.
Yeah.
So if someone came into your print shop tomorrow or on Monday and said they were thinking about starting up in screen printing, what would your advice be?
Get paid up front.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, get paid up front. And that would probably be my biggest advice. And I learned that the hard way from the label, like from Artsu. We did some big orders in our first couple of seasons and got pretty excited by some big orders from some chain stores, and then kind of when I think we were supplying a chain store in Melbourne that had 7 stores throughout, like 7 boutiques, or not boutiques, that were quite large. So like a mall style store. So they'd put an order in. Our first order with them was $30,000 for t-shirts. And we got I got excited and went, excuse me, this is great. But then we delivered, and then about a month later, all the stores went into receivership. So we lost a lot, basically.
Wow. And
we didn't get a cent back to the dollar. Yeah, and the stock gets taken. So
right.
By the liquidator.
Gosh.
So get paid up front. Don't order. Don't like. And if people want whether or not you're running a label or you're printing for someone, if people want the work done, they'll pay you the money to have it done. If they don't, then they probably haven't got the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's,
Simple as that.
yeah, that's as simple as that. Don't overpromise what you can do, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like someone comes in with it, because the young guy that works for me tends to do this a little bit. If he knows people who want something printed, he tends to go, yeah, we can do that. Gets excited. We can do, yeah, I can do that. We can do that. Or if he's quoting, yeah, we can do that. And then I'll go over his quote before he sends it out, and I'll be like, do we really want to do this? Do we really want to do this job? So I'll be, yeah, I'd say kind of don't know your limitations and kind of build on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
For what you can produce and what you can do. Otherwise, especially if you're taking payment up front, you'll end up in strife if you can't actually produce what you've said you can produce. So
yeah, I think that's very sound business advice. Yeah. But no, it's difficult because you don't want to under-promise. You know what I mean?
no,
you want
no,
to over-promise, but you don't want to.
It's a tough line, but you've got to know that you can. So, like, and this is from a perspective of somebody starting out. It's like, know that you can do it before you agree to do it, I think.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Nick, mate, it's just been great to just chew the fat.
Absolutely.
And to learn so much from you. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I look forward to coming up to Armidale and dropping in.
Please do. Yeah.
And
come and check us out, and
for sure.
grab a bit of food or get a beer or something. It'd be lovely to have you here.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll ask you to stay on the line because I just want to see if I can help you with that tunnel dryer. But for now, thank you very much. I really appreciate having you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.